Good afternoon, students.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
So now I hope that all of you go through all these topics that we were covered in the last class. So all of you, please close your books and switch on your cameras. Close your books and turn on videos. I want to see your face. Okay. So starting with Nigila Mary. What do you mean by gravitational force?
The force exerted by the earth.
Force exerted by Earth to where?
To the surface.
Yes.
To the surface.
The force exerted by the Earth to its surface, right? Okay. Anandita, what do you mean by gravitational force?
Earth attracts everything towards it by a force. Is called gravitational force or gravitational pull or gravity. This
Okay.
phenomenon is called gravitation.
This phenomenon is known as gravitation. Okay. So Earth attracts every object towards its center by a force of attraction. We know that there is force of attraction and force of repulsion. And what do you think? Gravitational force is actually attractive in nature. Okay. So Earth attracts all the object towards its center by a force of attraction. And this force is known as gravitational force, or it is also known as gravitational pull, or we can simply call it as gravity. Okay. And this entire phenomenon is known as gravitation. Okay. Then next question to Surya Dev. Can you give me any one example for gravitational force? Any one example?
Rain falls from the sky to the earth.
Very good. Rain falls down to the earth from the sky. It is an application of gravitational force. Ken, one more application.
A flow of water in the river.
Very good. Flow of water in the river is occurs as a result of gravitational force. Okay. Then based on this concept, Sir Isaac Newton put forward a law that is what is known as universal law of gravitation. So Atleo, state the universal law of gravitation.
Every object in this universe attracts each other by a force which is directly proportional to the product of mass of two bodies and is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them.
Okay, every object in this universe attract every other objects with a force which is directly proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. This is what is known as universal law of gravitation. Very good. Then Sridev, mathematical expression for universal law of gravitation.
F equal to G m1 m2 divided by r square.
Very good. F is equal to G into m1 m2 divided by r square. Then Nandana, can you differentiate each term present in this equation?
F is force.
Yes.
G is the proportionality constant.
Okay, what is that name of that proportionality constant?
Universal gravitational constant.
Universal gravitational constant. Then m1 and m2?
Mass of
Mass.
the first object.
Mass of the taken objects. Okay, then
Then M2 also the mass of the
second object. Okay, then R.
R is the distance between.
R is the distance between the two objects. Okay, all right. Then Adigesh, what is the SI unit of universal gravitational constant?
Newton meter square per kilogram square.
Newton meter square per kilogram square. What about the value of universal gravitational constant G? Hira.
G equal to 6.673 into 10 minus 11. Then
Okay. Unit, SI unit.
mn square. Nm square. Nm square per
kilogram square. 6.673 into 10 raised to minus 11. 10 raised to minus 11 Newton meter square per kilogram square. Then next one, Amaljit. Equation for calculating the universal gravitational constant G. How we can calculate capital G?
F into R square by M1 into M2.
Very good. F R square divided by M1, M2. So anyway, very good. All of you are cooperating with this question answer session. So I hope that all these concepts are clear to you. Is it clear? Okay. So now we can move to the next topic. So in the last class, we derived an equation for a universal gravitational constant or the force of attraction between the two objects that is present on the surface of the earth. So similarly, we can write an equation for the force of attraction between earth and the object. Okay, so all of you write the next subheading. Force of attraction between earth and the object. Earth and the object. Earth and object. Force of attraction between earth and object. Okay. Let capital M be the mass of earth, and small letter m be the mass of an object then the force of attraction between the force of attraction between the earth and object is given by if let M be the mass, capital M, we know that whenever we compare the earth and that of the object, earth is something with a huge mass. So here we are taken capital M be the mass of the earth and small m be the mass of the object. It can be anything that is situated on the surface of the earth. So here we consider an object and earth, then the force of attraction between earth and object is given by F is equal to capital G into, instead of M1 into M2, here it becomes, any idea? Very good. Capital M and small m divided by distance of separation between the two objects. That is, here one object is earth, another object is anything that is situated on the surface of the earth. So F is equal to G into capital M small m divided by R square. So instead of M1, M2, here we have capital M and small m. So F is equal to G into capital M small m divided by R square. Now we can differentiate each term present in this equation. We can represent each term present in this equation. Where capital G is the universal gravitational constant. Capital G is the universal gravitational constant. So whenever you write the equation, try to differentiate each term present in that equation. Okay. So capital G is the universal gravitational constant. What about capital M? Capital M?
Mass of the earth.
Very good. It is the mass of the earth. Mass of the earth. Then small m?
Mass of an object.
Mass of an object. Mass of an object. Then what about R?
Distance.
R actually is the distance between the two objects, but actually here this R behaves like radius of the earth. This R here, it is the radius of the earth. I will explain how it becomes the radius of the earth. Because here we consider the two objects. One object is the earth and other object is the anything that is situated on the surface of the earth. Okay, so here we have the earth. Actually, earth is not a perfect sphere. We just imagine that it's a spherical in shape. And if the object is situated on the surface, then the distance between the center of the earth to that of the particular object can be taken as its radius. Okay, so the distance between the earth and the object is nothing. It is the radius of the earth. Is it clear? So force of attraction between earth and object, the universal law of gravitation becomes F is equal to capital G into capital M into small m divided by r square, where capital G is the universal gravitational constant, capital M mass of the earth, small m mass of the object, and r, it is the distance between earth and object. But in this special case, whenever we consider the force of attraction between earth and object, this small r represents the radius of the earth. Is it clear? Yes or no? Okay. So this is what is about the universal law of gravitation in the case of earth and object. So in the case of two objects, instead of earth and object, if you are considering two objects, the universal law of gravitation is given by F is equal to G into M1, M2 divided by R square. We need this equation for the next topic. That is why we are introducing here this force of attraction between the earth and object. Okay, now we can look, now we can just go through the properties of the gravitational force of attraction, universal properties of gravitational force. All of you write next subheading, properties of gravitational force. These are some extra information. This will be helpful for your further studies for +1 and all. Properties of gravitational force. Even though this force is responsible for holding us towards the center of the earth, actually this gravitational force is the very weakest force in nature. Okay, so this is the first property of gravitational force. Gravitational force is the weakest force in nature. Gravitational force is the weakest force in nature. The second characteristics, as we told earlier, gravitational force is an attractive force. It is not a repulsive force. It is a force of attraction between two objects or between the earth and the object. So it is an attractive force. It is not a repulsive force. It is an attractive force. Okay. The third characteristics of gravitational force, it is a mutual force. Mutual force means the two objects must be participated in it. It's not acting on a single object. It is act between the two objects. So we can say gravitational force is a mutual force. Now, the fourth characteristics, it is a central force. Gravitational force is a central force because it acts along the line joining the centers of the bodies. So suppose we are already told that if we are considering an earth and the object is situated on the surface of the earth, we are considering its distance from the center of the earth. So actually this gravitational force is a central force, because it is a force of attraction in which earth attracts all the object towards its center. So it acts along the line joining the centers of the bodies. It is a central force. So it is a weakest force, it is an attractive force, mutual force, central force, and the next one, it is mass and distance dependent. It depends on the mass, it also depends on the distance. That is what is we were discussed in the last class. According to the equation, we know that F is equal to G into M1, M2 divided by R square. Okay. We know that the force is directly proportional to product of the mass. If the mass increases, force of attraction between them is also increases. So we can say gravitational force is mass dependent. The second characteristics, the force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. Because they are inversely proportional to each other, we can say if the distance increases, force between the objects decreases. So it is mass and distance dependent. It depends on the mass and distance between the object. The sixth one, it obeys inverse square law. I will explain what you mean by inverse square law after this. It obeys inverse square law. Then the seventh characteristics, it is a long range force. It is a long range force. It is the weakest force, but it is a long range force. The force of attraction between the two objects exists too long. It's a long range force. Even though it is a weakest force, it is a long range force. You don't need to copy down the explanation. Only try to collect the main point. It is a weakest force, it is an attractive force, it's a mutual force, central force, it depends on mass and distance, it is obeys the inverse square law, and it is a long range force. And the last characteristics, it does not depend on the medium between interacting bodies. It does not depend on the medium between interacting bodies. If the interaction is between, it can be either between the two objects or it can be between the object and the earth. Whatever may be the medium present between the object, it's not a matter for the gravitational force. Okay, so there is no gravitational shielding is present between the two objects. Whatever may be the medium present between the interacting bodies, no problem, gravitational force will be present there. So it does not depend on the medium between the interacting bodies. So these are the different characteristics or properties of the gravitational force. Study at least 5 or 6 properties. Okay. It is the weakest force, attractive force, mutual force, central force. It depends on mass and distance. It obeys the inverse square law. It obeys inverse square law. What do you mean by this statement? Inverse square law. Actually, this inverse square law is proposed by Sir Isaac Newton. What do you mean by inverse square law? Inverse square law is already present in the universal law of gravitation. As we are already told that the force of attraction between the two objects is inversely proportional to what? The force of attraction between the two objects is inversely proportional to what? Yes, it is inversely proportional to the distance between the two interacting bodies. This is what is known as inverse square law. F is inversely proportional to 1 by r square. Okay, so this is the inverse square law, and Newton proved that, or he, through this universal law of gravitation, he gives us a satisfactory explanation that whenever the distance increases, the force of attraction between them is decreases. Okay, so the force of attraction between the two objects is inversely proportional to 1 by r square. This concept is known as inverse square law. So we can say that the universal law of gravitation obeys the inverse square law. So these are the different characteristics of gravitational force. Is it clear? Is it over?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now we can discuss what is the importance of this universal law of gravitation. Some 3 or more 4 points are given in your textbook regarding with the importance of the universal law of gravitation. So write the next subheading, importance of universal law of gravitation. The universal law of gravitation successfully explains several phenomena that is occurs in this nature. So as we told earlier, the universal law of gravitation or the gravitational force that bind us to the earth. It is because of the presence of gravitational force we can stick here or hold tightly towards the center of the earth. Otherwise we are flying here and there. So you only need to copy down the main points. The force that binds us to the earth. The second one, it is the gravitational force which is hold the moon. That is, in presence of this gravitational force, the moon can revolve around the earth. We know that moon is the only natural satellite of the earth. It can revolve successfully around the circular orbits around the earth because of the presence of this gravitational force. Otherwise, you just think, we know that whenever an object is take a round around any object, after sometimes there may be chance to fall down into the center of the earth. But instead of it is falling towards the center of the earth, it is just keeping revolving around because there is a force of attraction is present between them. Okay. And due to this force of attraction, the moon can successfully revolve around the earth. It is not fall down towards the center. The third one, the motion of planets around the sun, the solar system. The gravitational force is actually responsible for the solar system. The planets are successfully moved in a circular or elliptical orbits around the sun. The motion of planets around the sun. And the last one, the tides. The tides in the sea due to the moon and the sun. It is due to the presence of gravitational force of attraction between moon and the sun, and between the sea, the tides are occurs. I will give the explanation in the next slide. The tides due to the moon and the sun. Is it over?
Yes, ma'am.
What about others?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now you can copy down here. What causes tides? Tides are caused by the interaction of Earth, the moon, and the sun. As a result of this, not only the simple interaction, the gravitational interaction. So for the final importance of universal law of gravitation, you can write the reason how the tides are occurs. So these tides are caused by the gravitational interaction of Earth, moon, and the sun. Gravity is the force exerted by an object that pulls other object towards it. We know all these concepts from the previous class. As the distance between the object increases, the pull of its gravity weakens. So sometimes the high tide and low tide is occurs. It is because of depending upon the gravitational interaction between Earth, the sun, and the moon. Tides are caused by the gravitational interaction of Earth, the moon, and the sun. After that, I will show another slide. You only need to copy down up to here because all the others are the applications of the gravity and gravitational force, explanations for gravity. So after writing this, tides are caused by the gravitational interaction of Earth, the moon, and the sun. After that, you can write here. The highest tides occur during the full moon and the new moons. when the sun and the moon are aligned and their gravitational forces pull together on Earth's ocean. This is the exact reason for the occurrence of tides. The highest tides are occurs. Sometimes we know that the highest tide is occurs in seas. It is because of the it occurs mainly during full moon and new moon, when the sun and the moon are aligned and their gravitational force pull together on the Earth's surface. So whenever the moon and that of the sun, they are in the align in the same, they are lying in the same line, what happens? The gravitational force of attraction between them is stronger. The highest tide can be occur. So the tide occurs due to the gravitation interaction between Earth, Sun, and Moon. Highest tide occurs during full moon and new moon, when the Sun and the Moon are aligned and their gravitational forces pull together on Earth's oceans. The effect is slightly stronger when the Moon reaches its perigee. Perigee means nothing. It is the closest point to the Earth. Actually, the definition is given here. The closest point to the Earth in its elliptical orbit. Is it over?
Yes.
Okay. So that's all about the gravitation, gravitational force, and the importance of gravitational force, universal law of gravitation and its values and all. Is it clear? Is there any doubt regarding with this topic? Any doubt? If you want to repeat this topic, you can say no problem. I will repeat it once again. Is there any doubt regarding with this gravitation, gravitational force and its importance? Unmute and say.
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So now we are moved to the next topic, that is free fall. All of you write the next heading, free fall. What do you think? What do you mean by this term, free fall? What all ideas are comes to your mind by hearing this term, free fall?
Falls without any
Without any effort, fall very freely, right? Abhiram, actually it's right. Is there any idea? Anyway, it's good. Abhiram. Tom, yes, Lynette. Yes.
Falling down by the force of the gravity.
Falling down by the force of gravity. Okay, exactly. So that is what is known as free fall. Okay, so actually this half point is contributed by Abhiram and the remaining portion is given by Nandana. That is what is actually mean by free fall. Okay, so if the object is falls downwards only in the presence of gravitational force, we can call that object as freely falling body, and this entire phenomenon is known as free fall. There is no other force or no external force is acting on the object. For example, in the last class, we are already demonstrated whenever a pen, if a pen is dropped from a particular height, it falls down. There is no external force is acting on it. It comes downwards, it is only because of the presence of gravitational force. Okay, so if the object is falling down due to the gravitational force alone, is known as free fall, and that particular object or body is known as freely falling body. There is no external force is present here. So this is what is known as free fall. So all of you write the definition for free fall. Free fall, the falling of an object or when a body falls from a height towards the earth only under the influence of the gravitational force. When a body falls from a height towards the earth only under the influence of the gravitational force, the body is said to have a free fall. The body having a free fall is called, or such bodies which undergoes this free fall is known as freely falling body. When a body falls from a height towards the earth only under the influence of the gravitational force, with no other external forces are acting on that particular body, then the body is said to have a free fall. The body having a free fall is called a freely falling body. So when an object is falls down from a particular height, we can say that the object is accelerate. Actually, it possesses some kind of acceleration. It is not in a state of rest. It is moving. So we can say that object is accelerate. So here in this figure, you can see two objects. What are they?
Feather and a coin.
Feather and a 5 rupee coin, right? And what do you think? Which object possesses a larger mass?
Coin.
Coin. Obviously, the coin is possess a larger mass as compared to that of the feather. Okay, coin possesses the greater mass. Now I drop this coin and feather from the same height, from a particular height, from the same height at the same time. What do you think? Which object is reaches the ground first?
Coin.
Coin.
Coin. Most probably the coin is reaches. Okay. Why? What is the reason behind it?
Because it has
It has
more mass.
larger mass.
Because it has larger mass. All right. But actually in real life situations, actually what is occurs is there, whenever we drop the object from a particular height, both the objects should be reaches in the same time if there is no air resistance is present between the object. Okay. So I will explain this phenomenon in the next class. There is a beautiful experiment was conducted by Galileo Galilei in order to prove this concept. We can explain it in the next class. So before that, you just understand the concept of free fall. Before the next class, you just try to study this concept of free fall. Then we can explain how the two objects with a different mass reaches in the ground at the same time. Okay. So with this, we can wind up today's session. So before that,